I'm going to walk you through why the ASUS NUC 15 Pro Plus might be the right or wrong choice for a lot of people who need a desktop-class machine in a space that looks more like a bookcase than a tower. If you've ever felt the tug of doubt when you see a sleek box with a price tag that looks a lot like a high-end laptop, you're not alone. The fear is usually about whether you'll actually get the performance you need, if the tiny chassis can keep cool under load, and whether you'll be stuck with a device you can't upgrade later. I spent a few days digging through the specs, reading the handful of user comments that are out there, and testing the unit on a typical work-from-home setup, so you'll get a realistic picture of what this mini PC brings to the table. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the most obvious thing about the NUC 15 Pro Plus is its size. At roughly the footprint of a hardcover novel, it fits on a crowded desk, a kitchen counter, or even a wall-mounted shelf. That's the kind of real-world convenience you actually notice when you're juggling a monitor, a keyboard, and a stack of paperwork. The downside of that tiny footprint is that you're dealing with a very compact cooling system. ASUS uses dual copper heat pipes and a fan that's louder than a whisper but not silent. Under sustained workloads, think video rendering or AI model training, the fan ramps up to a noticeable hum. In a quiet office, that can be a distraction, but in a typical home environment with some background noise, it's manageable. Port selection is surprisingly generous for the chassis size. You get 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, which means you can daisy chain up to 2 4K displays or connect a fast external SSD without needing a separate adapter. There's also an HDMI 2.1 output that supports Quad HDR, so you can drive a 4K monitor at 120 Hz for smooth scrolling and crisp visuals. 2 USB-A ports cover the legacy peripherals, and a 2.5 gigabits Ethernet jack gives you wired networking that's ready for future-proof speeds. The only port that could be missed is a traditional SD card slot. If you want to pull media directly from a camera, you'll need a dongle, which adds another piece to an already tight setup. When it comes to performance, the Intel Series 2 Ultra 5225H is a 14-core, 14-thread CPU that can boost up to 4.9 GHz. In everyday tasks, email, web browsing with dozens of tabs, light photo editing that's plenty fast, you'll rarely feel a lag. For more demanding scenarios, like compiling code or running a local development server, the extra cores and high boost clock make a noticeable difference compared to a typical i5 or even i7 laptop of a few years ago. However, the integrated Arc 130T GPU, while decent for casual gaming and media playback, still lags behind dedicated graphics cards when you ask it to handle modern 3D titles or heavy GPU-accelerated AI workloads. If your work revolves around deep learning frameworks that lean heavily on CUDA-compatible GPUs, you'll find the Arc GPU limiting. You'll need an external GPU enclosure via Thunderbolt, which adds cost and complexity. Memory and storage are where the tool-free upgrade promise really shines. The unit ships with 32 GB of DDR5 RAM already soldered, so you have plenty of headroom for multitasking, large spreadsheets, and even some 4K video editing. The 1 TB PCIe SSD sits in a slot that you can open without a screwdriver, meaning swapping it for a larger drive or adding a second SSD is straightforward. That's a huge plus for people who like to keep their primary system lean but still need room for large project files. The trade-off is that the SSD is the only drive you can add internally. If you want a traditional HDD for bulk storage, you'll have to rely on external enclosures. Who should buy this? If you're a software developer, a data analyst, or a creative professional who needs a solid, always-in workstation but doesn't want a full-size tower, the NUC 15 Pro Plus hits the sweet spot. Its small size means you can place it in a home office without sacrificing desk space, while the powerful CPU and ample RAM handle IDEs, Docker containers, and multiple virtual machines with ease. The Wi-Fi 7 and Thunderbolt 4 connectivity also make it a good hub for high-speed external storage and peripheral devices, which is handy when you're moving large datasets around. For students or freelancers who need a portable yet powerful machine, think of it as a desktop that can travel in a backpack. The ability to pull it out, plug it into a monitor, and be up and running fast is a real benefit. On the other hand, you might want to skip this mini PC if your primary use case is heavy gaming or intensive 3D work. The integrated Arc GPU simply isn't built for sustained high frame rate gaming at 1440p or 4K, and while you could add an eGPU, the cost and added power draw often make a dedicated gaming laptop or a compact desktop with a discrete GPU a more straightforward solution. Similarly,